Special workshop meeting of the Bangor School Committee scheduled for 7:15 p.m. Tuesday, May 19th. Welcome to all those here in the library and also watching. Could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we're moving right into public comments. Do you have a statement I need to read before we start public comment? Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on school and education matters. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief and not repetitive. The school committee's practice is not to respond or debate with speakers during the public comment period. We are here to listen. The superintendent or her staff will follow up on comments outside of the meeting as appropriate. The committee will not permit profanity or shouting and requests that speakers be civil. Discussion of specific personnel or student matters and complaints concerning specific employees or students will not be allowed, but will be addressed through established policies and procedures. Before speaking, we encourage speakers to review School Committee Policy AC, which provides that the committee does not and will not discriminate nor tolerate discrimination against students or employees on the basis of membership in a protected class. Speakers who share comments contrary to this policy will not be allowed to speak. Before starting, please state your name and place of residence. Would like to come up first? Please.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Michael Swahoff, and I have 3 children in Bangor schools, including a 4th grader in Fairmount. I want to speak against option number 2, where Fairmount students are placed in Bangor High School. While keeping the Fairmount community together is a significant factor in this decision, the inevitable downsides of placing elementary and high school students in a single campus far outweigh the benefits. Malicious behavior aside, there are mundane circumstances that offer an even higher likelihood for problematic encounters. Think of the kinds of conversations you remember in the when you were in high school. You know what kinds of topics are discussed and what language is used. These conversations may not be inappropriate for teenagers, but they can be highly traumatic and confusing for a 9-year-old. Putting these students in a high school and pledging to keep them isolated is like intentionally taking elementary students into an R-rated movie and saying that it's okay because we gave them earplugs. Day after day, eventually some of that content will make its way through. While school officials will, in good faith, do everything in their power to keep students separate, encounters are inevitable, whether an elementary student overhears an age-inappropriate conversation, sees confusing graffiti in the bathroom wall, or inadvertently witnesses bullying, illicit smoking, or sexualized jokes. Yes, they can be exposed to this content elsewhere, but this proposal represents a choice to put them in that context. And given that it's a choice, even one encounter is unacceptable. I'll leave you with 4 points to consider about this proposal. Given the condition of Fairmount, this relocation is realistically going to span multiple years, which increases the likelihood of encounters between these student populations. Number 2, physical constraints such as fire code regulation or that some campus facilities will need to be shared mean that complete isolation is impossible, even if attempts are made to control the timing of what students are in which spaces. Number 3, it's a fact that sometimes students evade oversight. High schoolers sometimes cut class, and as Fairmount parents know from the hold notifications we receive, from time to time, 4th and 5th graders are not always where they're supposed to be. It's a given that total isolation cannot be 100% policed, nor is it likely to be as rigorously policed for the more relaxed atmosphere of after-school activities. And 4, high schools inherently face many adult-level challenges. A Bangor high school teacher noted at the listening session just last night that students are regularly caught smoking and vaping in bathrooms, that syringes have been found on campus, and that more than one student is tragically overdosed on campus just this year. We can try to keep student populations apart, but things happen. Not everything goes to plan, And all it would take is one negative encounter for one of our Fairmount children to see or hear something that they can't unremember. I urge you to not consider this option. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak now?
Hi, I'm Megan Anderson, mom of a current Fairmount student, who will continue to be Fairmount next year and also a rising Fairmount student. I want to assure this committee, my third appearance, that I want to be here about as much as you want to keep seeing me, so. I am speaking from the perspective of someone situated on the west side, and a family who will be squarely affected by this decision. I'm also representing the perspectives of several other west side families who weren't able to be here tonight because of scheduling conflicts. Support appears to be coalescing around the school within a school at Bangor High, where we are tonight. I understand the appeal of this option. It keeps the magical Fairmount community together. It's probably the easiest to undo, and it disrupts the fewest students within our district. I'm going to start with my second point of the benefits first. This committee should really aim to understand whether Fairmount will reopen and on what timeline before you render any decision about what to do with these kids for next year. I understand that there's been no full contractor assessment of the building or bids secured, which I do ask, why not? But surely there are some immovable thresholds, financial or otherwise, that would control in determining the future sufficiency of this building. The committee, you must wrap your arms around these criteria in order to assess the future viability of Fairmount and in order to reach a decision for next year. And along the lines of viability, any temporary plan should come with a publicly available timeline for when bids will be produced, what the scope of the work is, when a contractor will be selected, how long that work will take, et cetera, et cetera. If the committee is considering the school within a school option, which it sounds like we, as a community, everyone is really starting to coalesce behind, I'm here to remind you that although this decision displaces the fewest people, these displaced people are actually real humans, most of them under the age of 11, and they deserve the same high quality education that the rest of the children within our district are receiving, even for 1 year. The following are things that must be considered in order to ensure our fourth and fifth graders' safety and security in an age appropriate environment. First, what are the facilities going to be like? Where will they eat lunch and at what time? I know in my high school, we ate at 10:15 in the morning because there were so many of us. Safety, it sounds like fire code may prevent a true separation. Bangor High students are surely wonderful, but by virtue of their relative time on this earth, are much bigger than our fourth and fifth grade students. There's a reason why these groups of kids aren't usually in school together. It has also been reported by staff and a number of last quarter. That is a terrible reality of not just our school system, but our nation. But it is not something that is generally happening in fourth and fifth grade school, and it's not happening in Fairmount. And this would be a true travesty for our kids to come upon.
10 seconds.
I would also point out with the outdoor space that we already have a dearth of outdoor safe equipment for our kids at Fairmount. And so in order for them to enjoy recess, they need to have snowsuits, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Who would like to come up next for public comment?
My name is Sarah Smith, and I have a third grader and a fourth grader, so soon to be fourth grader and soon to be fifth grader. And when I am also a teacher in the Bangor School Department. When I got the email this afternoon saying that my son was pulled during his school day to participate in a listening session that he did not ask to be a part of, and I did not approve for him to be in, I knew that I had to speak up. He is 10 years old. We had only barely talked with our two children about the next coming years because they aren't set in stone. We really wanted to keep it brief with them because plans keep changing, ideas keep getting tossed around. We wanted them to be finalized. We fill them in on what the next couple of years are going to look like for them because there are a lot of worries and anxieties there for them. And of course, when he is asked by staff members which option he wants, he's obviously going to say that he wants to stay with his friends. And I appreciate the thought of making them feel like that they have a voice. But it's gonna make it really hard for us as parents now, much more difficult for us when we have to let them know that if the school board decides that it is the Bangor High School option, that we will not be allowing them to attend. Um, if that is the choice that the committee chooses. Because we do not believe that moving 8, 9, and 10-year-olds to the high school is and we believe that is an irresponsible and risky option. And I can't believe that we as a community are considering this. We have concerns about true separation as there are many entrances to the A-wing. We're not sure how we can actually guarantee that there will be no crossover between the ages. We have many questions with specials, lunch, the nurse, etc. And I don't believe that those can be left unanswered before this is voted on, whether it is the 8th graders that move up or whether it is the 4th and 5th graders that are in A-wing. Bathrooms are another huge concern, as it's been mentioned tonight. If students are to use the bathroom by the gym or the cafeteria, always checking on them, as a staff member going in before them. VHS bathrooms are notorious for fights, drugs, and other inappropriate things. I attended Bangor High School, and again, Bangor High School students are phenomenal, but they are also high schoolers. Things happen. Bangor High School students, past and present that I know, have refused to use the bathroom throughout the school day. Because they also just don't want to expose themselves to those behaviors, their own same age peers. And can we honestly guarantee that we will be giving them the same continuity to the incredible programming that they are receiving at Fairmount right now? And are we going to be giving them an equitable experience to what the 4th and 5th graders are getting at Mary Snow? And our students are already exposed to way more than they're emotionally and developmentally ready for at this age, and just this day and age world that we're living in. I just don't believe that there's been enough weight given to the worst case scenarios of the school within a school for 4th and 5th graders here at high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Please.
Hello, I'm Amy Knight. I don't have anything formally prepared. And I'm probably going against the grain here a little bit, which is why I felt like I needed to speak my opinion. I have 4 children in the Bangor Schools Department. I have one at 14th Street School. I have one at Fairmount. I'm sorry, 2 at 14th Street School, one at Fairmount and one at Dowdy Middle School. And my 9-year-old daughter will be going into 4th grade and my son will be going into 8th grade next year. So I kind of have the perspective sides. While I echo everybody's concerns about 4th and 5th graders staying in the high school, I have equal, if not more, concerns about my 8th grader being in the high school. Clearly 4th and 5th graders are not high school students, and I feel and I hope that the school would keep them as separate as it's possible. 8th graders are going to blend in with high schoolers, and they are also going to be exposed to things that they are not ready for, and I'm not ready for as a parent. I have one more year before he's going to be exposed to these things that we can't control anymore. And not only that, but he will miss out on his 8th grade year in middle school, which is so important to them at this age, to finally be the big kids on campus, and to completely miss that experience and go straight to high school is so sad for me and my son as well. He was also interviewed today to give his opinion, and he of course wants to stay at Dowdy. I know there's so many factors to consider, but I personally would much rather have my 4th grader here in what can be as much as possible a separate Fairmount school than my 8th grader to be immersed in with high schoolers. I'm just not ready for that to happen yet, so that's my opinion.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, my name's Justine Flynn. I'm from Bangor and I have a student at Fairmount, who will be in fifth grade next year, and one who's currently at Dowdy in sixth grade. And I don't really love any of these options, but I understand these are the options that we have. And I think containing the fourth and fifth graders as much as possible at the high school seems like the best option. It's the least disruptive to the most number of people. If it truly is temporary, that gives us a year to figure out if Fairmount's not reopening, how are we restructuring? My sixth grader pointed out that they would be Fairmount in fifth grade, Dowdy in sixth grade, Cone in seventh, Dowdy, and then the high school, which is a lot for those students. She plays sports and she's very concerned about would it be their coach or our coach? How will the team be decided? What about the sixth graders? Are they allowed to play multiple sports? Things that are really important to those students. Band, chorus, orchestra, sports, like I said, are real concerns for our middle schoolers. And I agree with what the person before me said about sending eighth graders into the high school without any plan to contain. I would not want an eighth grader to be exposed to those things anymore, and I think it's easier to contain fourth and fifth graders. And I also think it could be an opportunity for the high school students to mentor, to come into the fourth and grade classrooms. Maybe you have some prospective teachers that could get some hands-on experience being helpers, or even organizing or helping teachers within their classrooms might be a good opportunity to see the positive aspects of high school. So while I don't love any options, that was the one that seemed the best to me. And I also participated in the listening session yesterday, and unfortunately our table's thought thing did not record us. So I went to Dr. Robinson at the end and we had about 10 minutes to recap everything. So I felt like I should speak up tonight because our very good, interesting chat that had lots of information was not able to be recorded. But the consensus of my group was that while we don't love anything, the option to put the fourth and fifth graders in the high school seemed like the most reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gwyneth. I have two kids in the school system. I have a rising sixth grader who is super excited to finally be able to go to school again with his big sister, who's a rising eighth grader. I am not envious of this decision. This is a huge decision. And you're right, there's not really a good choice. And all of us parents, I think, have been discussing amongst each other what's going on. But today, as I was driving back from track in Ellsworth, this thought hit me. Everybody has said everything. Who wants to put a 12-year-old in high school? That is what we're talking about. Think of it that way. My daughter will be 13 starting next year in school, and she'll turn 14. But she has friends that will still be 12 starting eighth grade, not even a teenager. These aren't easy decisions, but that is huge. So please just, I know y'all have a lot of things to think about. The sports, the everything y'all know about. But 12 years old, possibly being with 18 or 19-year-olds, yikes. And a lot of eighth grade girls, I have one, they don't look like they're in eighth grade. So it's kind of scary. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else for public comment tonight?
Christina Murphy, Bangor, and I really didn't want to speak tonight, but I feel like it needs to be said. I really want to know the status of Fairmount. I want evidence and I want the contract reports, not just to know who did it. Because I also think that as insane as it is to put 12-year-olds in a high school, putting 9 and 10-year-olds in a high school is also crazy. They're all crazy options. They are not appropriate for the ages that are under consideration. And there are options that I feel frustrated are never considered. We were not given a voice in the sense of let's all brainstorm. I'll be honest, I would be more comfortable with my pre-K or kindergartner coming here, maybe bus them from where they are and pull back the fourth and fifth graders so that they're actually in an elementary school. Because there would be more of an option, and I think this is why you're seeing a shift down in age where people would prefer that overlap. There's more of an option to kind of have it go over their head. But I don't think it's gonna go over the head of the fourth and fifth graders. I also am frustrated because I had a student who was similarly pulled out without my knowledge until this afternoon, and who felt after the listening session right before I came here, like she needed to tell me that she felt like the options were being presented so that she would give an answer that was the answer that the person administering the listening session wanted to hear. And that is not what I want to hear from my child. I want to hear that she feels like her voice matters and that you are listening to her without guiding. I will leave that, but please consider that you may have more than 3 choices, and if you don't, how you got here needs to be explained very clearly to the audience.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment tonight? All right, thank you all. At this point, we're gonna move forward to the informational item for tonight, discussion of the Fairmount reorganization plan. And Dr. Robinson is going to give a presentation, and then we'll have time as a school committee to listen to the superintendent and have discussion on these. Superintendent Robinson? Ready?
Fair amount, so I'm not. Thank you. Again, I'll just echo what I've been hearing, that this is a really challenging situation. And I know that it's frustrating for everyone involved. I am going to go through, the information we have at this point and open it up for questions. So I do want to, share the listening sessions follow-up. We were able to, and there were a couple of glitches. Again, this was a trying our best to incorporate as much feedback as possible in a short time. So the listening sessions went mostly okay. A lot of people shared that they appreciated the opportunity to have that discussion. And the app did provide a summary report. So we'll go over that and then just review the goals of the proposal. Look again at our April 1 enrollment, review the current options. We did get information, more solid estimates on our Fairmount facility updates. And then review the additional considerations and open it up for questions from all of our committee members. You can click on that evening session one at a time. It's linked to a document.
Yep.
It opens. So as you can see here, we were able to capture a synthesis of the data. And it did capture what most people did believe within that session. And I will also say that we extended this to those that were viewing online. There was an opportunity and people were participating from home as well. So this is a wide range of people involved in.
Dr. Robinson, can I
Yes.
stop you right there? I just wanted to see if people in the audience can see this. I'm sure people online can see it, but people in the audience can see what you're, I don't know if we can turn it just a little bit. I think most of the committee have either computers or where they're at the listening sessions and don't necessarily see it.
This is also gonna be posted on our webpage. So, the overall, community is looking at the school within the school model at Bangor High School. And I will just echo what I've shared last night as well, that none of these are ideal. And as the school department, we fully acknowledge that this is an unexpected situation, that we are choosing what we feel is the best possible option, given our current reality. So the primary goal is looking at, that this plan affects the least amount of students. If you could just scroll. Thank you. Right there, it's good. So really looking at maintaining stability for children, by preserving their student body and their staff. I spoke to several students last night, and that is something that echoed really clearly for me is, and also from parents, that the school is not necessarily the location, but it's the people. And that struck me, really deeply, knowing that it's a huge, and I know, everyone is talking about the day-to-day operations. And when we have a sudden change, don't we want to have people who are near and dear to us nearby and offering that support? So I fully understand that, and I think students echoed that as well. You can just continue to scroll up. This continues to summarize what I'm talking about. I'm not going to read it to everyone. Everyone can read that. There is, and I'll just go on to the strong opposition to option 3. And many people said that it would be a logistical nightmare. There are challenges for each of the options. As I have shared previously, I will continue to explain that any one of these are possible. Any of the options, 1, 2, or 3. It really is just taking a close look at the lens from which we are viewing these options. And I've really appreciated those that have participated very productively in our conversations, knowing that in an emergency, things don't always go exactly as planned. And yes, we would love to have a longer period of time with even more collaboration. And unfortunately, this is where we are. So the challenge to option 3, disrupting the number of students, and that's what came through to me loud and clear. Students and staff in grades 4 through 8 for option 3 would be moved around in a pretty significant way. So then if we look at option 1, and again, I spoke to some of the 7th graders that were in attendance last evening and talked about those safety concerns. Some of the parents talked about that. But I think what's even more telling to me about the options is the concerns for 8th graders, for rising 8th graders missing out on their middle school 8th grade year. I hear that, I feel that. Had we had a longer period of time, things could have been put in place, right? Like knowing 7th graders were going to be moving on, there could have been special ceremonies and things of that sort, which I know our staff and administrators would have put together. And unfortunately, we haven't had that time to do things like that. So I do hear those concerns. If we could scroll up a little bit more. There are serious reservations, and I think we are going to speak to those in terms of option 2 with the school within a school. Looking at how do we keep 10-year-olds safe, the playground, the logistics, lunch, all of those things we have had discussions on, and there will be further information that I'm able to share at this point because we've had a little bit of a deeper discussion around that. In terms of, and then of course the disruption to the high school, I mean, that can't go unnoticed. So I know many people are rallying around option two, and I understand that, but I don't want it to seem as though it's the quote unquote simplest. Because you are displacing a whole wing of teachers that needs to be reconfigured, and will ultimately lead, if this is the option we choose, to some staff, sharing spaces and things of that sort. So it requires us all coming together. And I do want to say that many of our staff have reached out with, and I've talked to many people today, just recognizing the challenge that we're all facing here, and it's not an easy decision. Concerns about sports and music, and that's a lot of it, would be for options 1 or 3, because you have a reconfiguration that requires those extracurriculars to be determined. So then down below, there is a lot of concern that this may not be a year, and I understand that. With deferred maintenance in an old building, we do have some pretty significant decisions to make. And the choice to move forward and make those repairs in Fairmount, of course, we aim to get things done. I've overseen facilities projects in previous districts, and those timelines sometimes get extended unexpectedly. So I don't think there's 100% guarantee on anything. I mean, things are happening, right? We just experienced something that's very unexpected. And back in December, no one could have predicted that we'd be here today. So members are still feeling is missing, and I understand this frustration. And I mentioned this last evening, and I'll mention it again. We had an older engineering study done on Fairmount, but that needs to be redone, and that's a large undertaking that needs to have a committee approval process. So at this point, we need to be looking at that, and I understand there's frustration, but those assessments of buildings don't happen very quickly. And to do a full assessment, we need to have that building available and empty. And I think we've heard that already. Decision that not only addresses next year, but also provides a transparent and thoughtful plan for the future of all Bangor students. That's exactly, I think, what we all want. And I'll just go back to thinking about the listening. I mean, the listening sessions for our strategic plan. The original plan before this occurred was to continue that process. We are set to have the draft analysis of our strategic plan. And from that, a facilities committee will be formed to determine the longer term vision. So this was really helpful to be able to summarize that and have that information. Could you go to the other? And we did ask students to participate in order to hear their voices. I've had many students email me directly wanting to have a say. So this was an opportunity for them to share in something anonymously that offered their voices. I love that their first one is recess, because recess is so important to students. So when we think about what students have shared, and again, this is a small sampling, it's something to consider. The school within the school model was the strong preference. Being in an isolated wing, and particularly students from Dowdy and Cohen agreed that this was a good choice, but also our younger students as well. And the cost, the kids mentioned that. I've really been amazed at the essays that I've received from students and the real critical thinking that they've put through, and really their wide perspective, that they're not just looking at it from their own viewpoint, but they're thinking of their friends. They're thinking of the students that are in the other buildings, and they're thinking of the staff members and how this change is going to affect them. So that was wonderful to be able to see. The students did raise those major logistical hurdles. Could scroll up a little bit to nearly every proposal. transportation, which is something I'll talk a little bit more about. Students with options 1, 2, or 3, there's gonna be changes with transportation, and they picked up on that. Beyond logistics, they talked about the proposed changes, and they worried about negative influences, just as many people have spoken, and that was across the board. Also, the concern that's been shared already is 8th graders missing out on their final year in middle school. Fourth and fifth graders talked about recess being a significant and tangible concern. I would argue that myself. We need to make sure that students have physical activity. It's extremely important. And 8th grade definitely confirmed that they were not in favor of being at the high school. And they really like the idea of a transparent, direct role in the decision-making process. Sometimes we think that even 9 and 10-year-olds may not have a certain capacity, but they do. And it's wonderful to be able to include them in some of this decision-making. Go back to, thank you. So just to review the goals of the proposal, again, safety is our #1 priority. And of course, the continuity of our curriculum and programming. Looking at minimizing the number of students and staff needing to relocate and maintaining that fiscal responsibility to our community. So this, over the past few days, I've been able to get some more solid numbers. Again, there's been calls out to people, and it takes time to put these things together in such a short notice. And then when options shift, those things need to be done again. So that's where we are with a lot of the challenges on the specifics. Again, our current enrollment, this breaks down each of our schools. There's a little over 1,000 students in school, and then ranging from 170 to close to 400 or 150 to 400 in each of the other schools, with a total of 3,419 in the whole school department. So just to review current option 1, we were able to get some additional costs looking at so just to review, option 1 is the citywide students grade 4 at Mary Snow. The middle schools would shift to grades 5 through 7, which would be separated east-west as they are. And BHS would have grades 8 through 12. I've also linked a document, well, just to go over the costs first. Looking at playgrounds at both of the middle schools. And again, these are approximate because in this short notice, we can't get very, very specific. Moving classroom materials, and another concern that has a potential cost, because these details would have to be worked out, is that teacher certifications are sometimes K-8, sometimes 7-12, but the majority of teachers teach 7th and 8th grade. So if we were just separating 8th grade, that would present a significant challenge to the staffing. Ensure that 8th grade had all the programming that they need. So I've included the maps. I don't know if we need to look at any of those, if you want to see them each right now. The map is really mostly for the school within the school model. But looking at benefits and challenges, if you could click on that. I opened this up to all staff today and captured thoughts from their perspectives. So I want to thank everyone who did participate in that. That was very helpful for us to take a look at.
And you'll note that some of the options have asterisks next to them. And that is when more than one person agreed with that. So as I reviewed this information, it really echoed some of the same challenges that have already been discussed. And if you could go back to the top.
Just a quick question.
Yes,
You said there was a map of the Fairmount at VHS.
yes, that will come.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'd be
for the,
interested to see.
for the next option. Yes, because we weren't able to map that out.
Thanks.
And just to pause on top of that, if it's not too crazy of an idea, since we're in Bangor High, after this, I would be interested to walk around and see what we're talking about, once you're finished, but since you brought it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
After the meeting. Yeah, absolutely. Mhm. So that is for option one. Thinking about sports, thinking about the teachers, and that's mentioned there, teaching 7th and 8th grade, the east-west divide, space for internal, people like IT. It requires a lot of shifting. I'll just put it that way. Requires a lot of shifting. So we can go to the next option. So option two is the school within a school, and that is Fairmount students and staff relocate to lower A wing at the high school. Looking at the cost, again, all of these have costs. But we're in a situation that has to be addressed. So if we can go to the benefits and challenges. And some again echoed a lot of what has been discussed. The teachers staying together impacts only 2 schools instead of more than 2. Class size. The high school has space. Other options, particularly option 3, would impact the enrollment at the middle schools. Some of the questions, lunch, PE, the age span, not a long-term solution for sure. Thinking about bathrooms, could scroll that down. Again, I don't want to read every to you, but I'm happy to answer any particular questions. Less transitions, we'll keep going. And then thinking about, I know extracurricular activities were a question. So 21st Century Club would follow the students. I know we did just get that information today. That we did get the funding, so we have 21st Century for our schools.
May I ask for every school that applied or?
All of the schools that applied.
State, Mary Snow, and Fairmount. Thank you. And the Boys and Girls Club applied for the grant to enhance what's happening at James Dowdy, and they got it. The 4 schools are being impacted by 21st Century grant.
Yeah, and that's an increase, so it's having opportunities. And continued, again, the same challenges that have been shared. You can go back. So if we want to take a look, if you go back to option 2 for a minute. And click on the A wing at VHS. And again, I just want to thank our staff who've been really flexible and pivoting with these options and putting their due diligence in again, while maintaining the day-to-day operations of the school. So we were able to put this together. So what you can see here, and I can also, share the map of the high school. This shows just lower A wing. So if you scroll up a little bit, if we go up. Down, I don't know if we'll be able to see here, but if you go scroll all the way up. So that's the main entrance. So as you're coming around the loop that goes in front of the building, that's the entrance. We are proposing for this option that we would add those secure doors right inside. So there would still be access to the stairwell, the high school, but there would be secure doors where the Fairmount students and staff would be housed. And then there is space for offices in that first section there on the left. And then if you scroll a little bit, you see the existing doors are labeled there, and those are able to be closed and locked. There are open areas, currently, I believe they have lockers. Dr. Butler, they have lockers right now, that area. That was already a summer project to be, to remove those lockers, which would open up a significant amount of space that could be utilized for a variety of needs. And then as you see, there's all of the classrooms, going all the way down, keep going. The bathrooms are there. And then that yellow line, we would be adding bi-directional doors as well. So there would be the 2 egresses, which are legally required. And I think that covers it. Are there specific questions on that? Yes.
Would this be the configuration for 8th graders if they're at the high school, or would they be in a different?
8th grade would be different. We don't have a specific map for that, because of the nature of 8th grade where they switch classes. It would be much more, difficult, I'd say, to keep them completely segregated, because things like, the cafeteria, the special, art, PE, music, they would need to use those facilities, so they would be intermixed a little bit more. I don't think there could be as strong a guarantee as there could be for Fairmount for 4 and 5 to be there, to keep them completely separate.
At this point, sense for people to start asking questions.
I'm happy for
And I
questions
can,
anytime,
and
yeah,
would you like
please.
me to call on individuals?
Sure, sure.
Let's open it up. First of all, thank you very much for the presentation, and we have anybody that would like to, Member Sprague?
Thank you. Thank you for the work that's gone into the presentation. I do have a whole series of questions, but I will defer to the group, so I'm not hogging discussion here. One of my main questions is just a little bit of a walkthrough about Fairmount still. There's still a number of people, maybe myself included a little bit, that wonder, is there any path to eke out 1 more year at Fairmount? What does that look like? How was that decision made? What contractors have we talked with? Have we got second opinions? Things like that. Knowing it takes time. But I have to say that the very first I've heard about these student listening sessions is today. I'm very concerned about that, because this is a very sensitive topic that parents want to be able to discuss with their children on their own terms, in their own way. So I'm interested in hearing more about how the student listening sessions, where that idea came from, and I consider it a breach of trust with the parents to have pulled students in to discuss these significant topics without informing the parents that they were going to be discussing it. And I am very concerned about who is leading those sessions, how were the students chosen, there's equity issues at play with that. And I just find the student listening session thing to be very, very good.
Yes, I can speak to that. Having spoken to students last evening and having many of them email me, That was my idea to include them, those that had participated already in discussions. It was Director Finney who oversaw those listening sessions. And it was completely voluntary for students to participate. So I apologize for not getting that parent permission. It was, I know it has been a student assignment that teachers gave. It's been a topic in classrooms. So that thought of kids are involved, and I really felt like this is a huge decision that they should also have a role in. So that was my doing. In terms of Fairmount, I can finish the presentation because there are some further details
That are directly related to
that are
member.
directly related. Yeah.
Member Sprague, does that work?
Yeah, I do want to hear more about Fairmount. I'm just aware that, and I'm sure you are too, there's a big difference between high school kids discussing this, elder middle school kids. Although I did say, as I said at the last meeting, elder middle school kids are still children in many ways, and I'm upset, to be honest, about fourth and fifth graders getting pulled in to the discussion.
I can understand that.
Please.
You put the presentation back on. So if we go on to option 3. There are some additional details there in terms of cost, the playgrounds, the science labs needing to be renovated. And the benefits and challenges. I will say I don't want to waste people's time because I feel like at this point, it's been made abundantly clear. I feel like that the community, the students, the staff are interested in the least disruptive option. So I would just go to the next slide there. So the facility update, which I received this morning. And it is a little small. I don't know if you can click on that link. It should be a larger. Or we can zoom into it. So these are the preliminary costs, and looking at the items again, just to recap, the way this all transpired is we have a map in all of the schools that identifies where asbestos is in the school, so that we're aware there's a structured plan to address that as needed, and that way people know in advance before doing any work what to expect. So that was unexpected asbestos that was alerted to our director of physical plant back in February. Those roof leaks that particular one was addressed through the proper procedures, and additional leaks continued. So because of this continuation, knowing that there is asbestos in specific areas, it became a concern because we don't know what to expect when we start addressing these things. So looking at what's needed, as we dug deeper, and these concerns have been raised across the board from various people within the school department. Looking at the roof is a 3 to 4 month process. So, and then it's a sequence of events. So the roof needs to be done first, and then the paint throughout the building needs to be addressed. And that takes time. The roof of the annex is a separate section from the main building. And that has a timeline as well. We have the foundation, the water infiltration that's coming in through the foundation. That would be something that would need to be addressed before, for example, the carpets would be put back in. So this is a significant, lengthy process. You could scroll up. The kitchen, that came through, with an assessment that was done recently.
They have inspections.
But is that annual?
Yes.
Yeah, so through an annual inspection, this information.
Member Bryan has a question specific to what you're discussing.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think, you know, the elephant in the room is this really gonna be a year or it's more long-term? And so are we to look at these months, if this is what needs to be done and add up all of the months, and then that would determine how long we're actually looking for this project to be complete? Is that
I think it
accurate?
would be an additional.
So do you mind if I answer the?
That's fine.
With that, please come up. So that you please, thank you.
Like, I'm gonna that. So if we scroll down to the letter, do you wanna talk about that first, Marie, and then I can move? One. Sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so on the third page of this document, it is a letter from a contractor that the director McGuire and I have gotten to look at the estimates that we've been working on for since this has all began. And he has in the bottom paragraph, again, people can read through this. This all will be available on the website to look at in full detail, but I can read this last paragraph and that'll kind of summarize everything for you, if that's a little bit helpful. And he kind of echoes what we have said and have researched. And so it says, without specific details, quantities, scope of work, or on-site inspections, it is impossible to quantify cost for the referenced construction. In rough order of magnitude terms, the 32,000 square foot building requiring the above referenced work could run $175 square foot or $5.6 million. As for time frame, this project could run as long as 12 to 18 months to complete. Under no circumstances could any one part of the above mentioned work activities be completed within the 2026 summer vacation period. There simply isn't enough time for both pre-construction activities and construction, so to realistically be completed. And so this is an opinion from the contractor. We have, there is absolutely no way that he can come up with, we've just been working on this with him recently. We are going to get an engineer, they are gonna get quotes, we're gonna do a top to bottom assessment of the entire building. And what we had discussed with him, this was just Friday, he was able to get this, this together for us, so we could, you know, provide you guys more information, but, we kind of picked apart even just one item on the list, and that's what he's talking about, even doing one item, so the painting in the classrooms, the painting is chipping. We can't fix that, which would take like 6 months without fixing the roof. And then if you fix the roof, you're gonna have to fix the paint, the chipping paint. And then if you're fixing any of those things, there may be asbestos, but you're gonna have to abate the asbestos. And which is a common thing when you're doing any kind of construction, that you may find asbestos in a building of this age. So it's kind of like a snowball effect when you look at this as a whole and you look at that second page, that one kind of breaks it down a little bit more for you on all of the separate things. But then he talks about, you know, where you would have to kind of start. Then there's also the aspects of the planning, the, you know, having the engineers do their work. You have to bid out all these projects because as a school department, we have to bid everything out over $10,000. And then if this is something that we want to pursue as a school department, there's a bonding process potentially, because $5.6 million is quite a lot of money. And then that could take a few months to pursue that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think member Bryan has the floor. Do you have? Yeah,
Quick
please.
follow-up, thank you very much for that, thank you, Heather. I have a question about Scott Dunbar, I think the questions are, you know, we all understand that this is, you know, we have to use preferred vendors. we have to go through this process,
Mhm.
you know, diligently and with all of the state laws, but can you explain the process of like, why Scott, why these numbers, how many other bids have been put out? Like, how do we, it's hard to make a decision when we don't have.
So this is very, this process we have explained, you know, that it's gonna take a while, so, Josh and I have, worked at trying to get that second page, you know, this has been an ongoing process, but we knew that we needed to get a second opinion. Josh has, reached out to a trusted contractor. You can come up if you want. And, you know, just trying to secure somebody who is well-known and all of that, and this person is actually doing this out of retirement and things like that to do, they are going to, we haven't done any bids yet, because this is just a scope of work aspect. We're not gonna do any bids until we get a decision on what we wanna move forward with, because it's, it wouldn't be very productive to work on any of these projects until we have a broad overview of what we're actually looking at and where to begin, where to end, any of that stuff. So it's gonna be a little bit before we can get these concrete numbers, you know, it's gonna take some engineering, and they have to look at structural. I'll let Josh
Yeah,
speak more to that, because he's.
I guess to keep in mind is.
Could you yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm Josh McGuire, Director of Physical Plant for the School Department. The big thing to keep in mind here is throughout the process of all of this.
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself and say?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Josh McGuire, Director of Physical Plant.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I think people in the audience I could see they were like, not hearing, yeah.
So the important thing to really keep in mind is that the estimates and timelines that we're coming up with are, we're looking to try and give you guys some information to help better improve this decision-making process. But realistically, when we get down to it, in order to get firm details where we can go out to bid and get, you know, hard numbers on this, we have to involve engineering companies. We have to have the building empty so that we can go through the entire building and see what the actual scope is. Do that without having the, you know, accompaniment of those people and the engineers and contractors that can really support this. Any information we can bring to you isn't going to be complete and accurate. And that's kind of a disservice to you guys making those decisions. So in order to do that properly, this is why we called Scott. He is a retired major contractor from the area. He's well known. And as they said, I mean, he's doing us a pretty big favor here to try and help us through this and help you guys. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Member Speed, first.
Yeah, I just wanted to wrap my head around the conversations that you had with Mr. Dunbar. I understand this is a scope of work. This is not a bid. We're gonna get bids if we move forward with this. But what would be helpful is, in any time in your conversations, did you talk to them about the scope of work going beyond 1 year? Did you give that, because I see the estimate that it's not gonna be able to get. It's gonna have to go through the fall. But was there ever any conversation about the scope of work and his professional estimation that it would put beyond a year?
We did provide him with a copy of the capital improvement plan that is going out 5 years so that he could see some of the items on there. We didn't really take that into account into what we're looking at for the immediate needs at Fairmount, because those are really what's driving this decision to close the building temporarily to be able to assess these problems.
And in his opinion letter, it does say 12 to 18 months at least. If you take into account all of the prep work, the engineering, all of those things, as well as the work. So on the second page, that one is just projects only. Like that would be if we went in tomorrow, the contractor started the work. And that's if you could find a contractor to come in tomorrow and do the work and things like that. Aside from all that work that you have to do in order to do, you know, facility work like that, so.
Member Sprague?
Thank you. I know this is stressful and these questions just add to the stress. So I appreciate you guys being willing to stand up there and talk it through truly. I don't know Scott Dunbar directly, but I recognize the name and believe him to be entirely reputable. So I just want to make clear that I appreciate his communications with us and I find him to be certainly completely above board here. I would say a couple things. One, if I went to a doctor and got such a poor diagnosis, I would immediately try to find another opinion. I would try to find another contractor just to have two things to compare against. And maybe with the lens of, is there a 1 year reprieve route here somewhere? Like, like Superintendent Robinson has talked about the dreaded January 2027 scenario where we've got an emergency because we tried to eke out 1 more year in Fairmount. Well, is there something we could do on a more minimal scale? I don't expect you to have the answer tonight, but this is this is just expressing the way I'm thinking about this. Is there like just roof work we could do in 3 months to patch it up enough to get another year to buy ourselves all time to have the more substantive long-term conversations? Has like the 1 year reprieve patch up option been part of the discussion at all?
So we did ask him those we said, you know, that was the first question. Can we open up this school? Is there any possible way we can do this? Looking at the projects that we had listed, by September, can this happen? The problem with, you know, we did have half of the roof planned as a project to do this summer. But if you only fix half of that roof, you're still got another half of that roof that's leaking. You still have the paint that's chipping in the rest of the school. You still have all of these problems we've talked about. So it's kind of at a point where do we keep putting those Band-Aids on this school? And then, like Dr. Robinson had mentioned, you know, if there's something that comes up from one of these things that we didn't attend to by September, we only did the roof, then are we gonna be evacuating these kids in January because we have to attend to something within a 2-3 week period, you know? So that's our concern there. And as far as getting a second opinion and all that stuff, this is a very preliminary conversation. This contractor is going to be, it's gonna take some time. He's gonna have to do a lot of work. He's gonna be working with engineers. He's gonna be working with other contractors. He's gonna be working with other vendors, and they're gonna be getting quotes. They're gonna be, a lot of people are gonna be looking at this as a scope of work. It's not gonna be just his opinion.
I appreciate the answer, and I'm not handy myself. I wouldn't be able to find the roof of the building if I had a map. I just feel like this is such a significant decision, and we have known about it for a little while. It goes back into the late winter, I think, that I'm just like feeling a little bit uncertain and maybe frustrated that we got a lot of eggs in this one person's professional opinion. And again, totally believe he's entirely reputable, but we have to make such massive decisions. I want to have as much information from as broad a group of perspectives as I possibly can.
We also have the, you know, we're doing the energy audit. We have those engineers and that company working with us as well, aside from this. They're willing to help consult here and there, whenever they can and on whatever they can. As well as, the engineering firm that we've been working, not engineering, but, the one that does our capital improvement plan, they'll be working along with them, and they've been working with not only the school, but the city for years and years. So they are our engineers. They've been with these buildings. They've been working on these buildings for years. So, I mean, and at any point, like, we're gonna share these details with you on an ongoing basis. And, if at any point you wanna switch it up or figure something out, then we could do that.
I think another thing that's good to note too is that any projects we do within the school department, we start planning them back in November, December. That's when we start engineering them, going out and really looking at the buildings, assessing structures, you know, finishes that need to be done, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, HVAC for indoor air quality purposes. All these things have to be addressed and looked at when we do projects. So it's a very considerable timeline to get these things done. Once the engineers get their plans together, then we have to deal with permitting for all these projects through the city, finding contractors, putting them out to a public bid. And that's starting back in November or December just to have someone available for a summertime project. So with the timeline we're currently on, that's another reason why we're looking at, there's just no way that we can accomplish this in this summertime period.
Like, we wouldn't, even if we wanted to do just the roof at this point, even to go through, to get the bid together, to go through the bidding process, find a contractor that would be available to do the work, have the workers available to get it done in time after the kids are out of school. It would be, I wouldn't say impossible, because, you know, well, anything's possible, but it would be tight.
Member Brian?
Thank you. And again, I want to echo just everyone's gratitude for being here and answering these questions. I want to acknowledge my own crankiness in this situation. I know, and it's so hot. But what I keep coming back to is I absolutely understand the process of having to get on this timeline so we can start this process and get these bids. I don't know Mr. Dunbar, and I'm grateful for his professional opinion, but is there any other individual we could ask a professional opinion of to determine if this is in line with his professional opinion? So that when we're looking at, this gentleman says, you know, it can't be done, we've got to move forward. How can we? I know we can't have bids out and we can't have all the numbers ready, but surely we can find somebody else that could give
So,
a second opinion.
he's not gonna be able to do a lot of, that's why we need the engineers part, like, he himself will not be able to look at this whole thing and say, okay, this is what it's gonna take. He needs the engineers' opinions. So that's gonna be kind of like a second, third opinion as well.
But what, I guess my question is like, is there any way to find other individuals to give them all the information we have and say, are we sure we've got to evacuate now? At the end of school year, we cannot go back into this school for 18 months. And again, I'm asking this out of ignorance and crankiness, and I really appreciate you guys being here and having all this information. It's just from my perspective, if there's anyone that could look at this and we could say, yep, Mr. Dunbar looked at this and he said this, and also Mr. Johnson looked at this and he said the same thing. This is a different timeline maybe, or these are different things that he thought of. I just think the more information we have, and I know that if this were going to stop the timeline and delay the vote, then I don't think that's the right option, because we need to move in order to get these processes going. I just, out of sheer unknowingness of how the construction works, is there any other individual that we could ask to get this information from?
I can say that I have had, I don't have any official documentation, and I'm sure we could provide it, but I have had conversations with the engineering company that we do use on a regular basis to design all of these projects. And they are the person I spoke to there is in agreement with the estimated cost and timelines. I'm sure that we can talk to them and get something in writing from them if you would like to see that. But I do think that if we go down the road of trying to find another company to come in and really do any sort of assessment or anything, we're just delaying this even further. And of course, the further we delay this, the harder it is for us to try and actually accomplish anything to get us back into the building.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
That was very helpful. Thank you. Any other questions for these two individuals?
We'll be able to call them back up.
We know you're not done yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and specific to this study that we're in right now.
Thank
You'll
you
be
very
here all
much.
night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
While we're getting the slides up, I just want to say thank you for the information. It was really helpful for the perspective of member Brian, just saying, like, is there another Dunbar who's looked at this? Not someone who's dug down deep, but just someone else who's had that opinion. So it was really helpful to say, well, yes, we actually spoke to other people and they're agreed.
Yeah,
Nothing
that's
written
very
down,
helpful.
but they're like, yeah, this looks right. And that
Yeah.
makes me feel a little bit better about it.
I think having that in writing would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Carpenter and Associates have been the longtime partner with the Bangor School Department, and that's who puts together our capital maintenance plan, which is also linked right here in the document.
Thank you.
Go to the next slide. So again, just to review the additional considerations that will be addressed as we determine which plan we will have moving forward. Open house opportunities, student supports, ensuring current conduct for our staff in their current jobs. Sports and extracurricular opportunities. We plan on ensuring that continues for any of the options. And working closely, we have been able to coordinate and talk with John T. Sear and Sons bus contractor. And the confirmation, while they have to work on specific routes, the confirmation is that the school start and end times would not shift regardless of the option. One thing that I will note in terms of transportation, I don't know if we've publicized this yet, but there is bridge construction that's happening this coming school year. So that is going to impact our transportation. There will be some delays, bridge construction in the city. I don't know if we don't have a bridge, right?
City has.
Like the city has put that out to conduct.
Yeah, they've had listening sessions and stuff on it.
Are we talking about like that Hogan Road?
It's the Kenduskeag Bridge.
Kenduskeag, Stillwater, and Hogan Road bridges are all being constructed, so. For the next 2.5 years.
So I just wanted to, as we're talking about transportation.
Can I ask a clarifying question on
Please, yeah,
Sears? So just to be clear, the start and end times would remain the same. Does that mean that if fifth grade and sixth grade, if fifth moved up to Dowdy, for instance, they would still start? Can you clarify what start and end times would remain the same, like based on the building you're in or based on
Yeah, I
what
think
you're doing, what you go through now?
So, we've worked with the director at Sear Bus and she's actually scoped out this entire route for a couple of plans. And as of right now, the start and end times would stay the same.
Did she
The
specifically say though, like if fifth and sixth grade are at Dowdy, that it would start at the Dowdy time, or because that would be a split? I think that's what.
Yeah, thank you.
Brian was
I
asking.
really need.
I think we talked about maintaining the earlier.
We wanted,
the school
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
The
we
school
suggested to her, she was able to accommodate that.
The school time.
Yeah.
So the high school, the school within the school, would the fourth and fifth graders start at the high school time or?
No, they would,
not.
I'm
they
sorry.
would maintain
Yeah,
their
It
regular.
is very confusing with all these options, so the option that has, that would be option 3, that has fifth and sixth at Dowdy. That would be the current Dowdy start time. The school within the schools would maintain their current start times, so Fairmount would still start at the same time. The high school would start at their own separate time. Even if their Fairmount is housed in Madison.
Thank you for that. May I ask another clear question?
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, I know that until we have a plan, all of these details have not been worked out. But did Sear and their team, or rather the team that works with the Bangor School Department for Sear, give any indication as to how any of these options, how their routes would be impacted? Did they say one way or other, like, oh my word, if you chose option 1, we'd never be able to get?
No.
No, they were very, very willing and they worked with us very
Yeah,
easily.
did you come up and speak?
Yeah.
No,
Thank you, Heather.
I feel like it's much louder over there, but.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
So, no, every time we went to with a plan, she was willing, she's like, let me work on that and, seemed to have it all figured out. And of course, up until July 1st, their bus routes for any schools at any time in any years are subject to change, so. It would be same with this.
Thank you.
Member Speed has a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, which is certain that the high school schedule is from 8 to 2 and Fairmount is from 9 to 3, is that correct?
So 9 to 3 for Fairmount, 8 to 2 for the high school.
Any other questions for Director Hale at this point?
Do you want to sit there?
Yeah, maybe you should.
You should.
Thank you.
That's everything that I have. So if there are other questions, and I'm happy to answer any other.
Sorry, I'm gonna let.
Member Luciano? Please.
So I'm just gonna do to the best of my ability, a recap from what I think maybe happened. My processing is sometimes a little disjointed, so we'll see how that goes. It seems like, based on the feedback, the comments, all of the things we're hearing, that we should essentially possibly just eliminate option 3 for this year for now. But knowing too that we're looking at possibly an 18 to 24 month timeline, possibly 12 to 18, excuse me. I'm just throwing the buffer time in my head that I would do if I were doing my kitchen. I'm curious if that makes that third option more viable, but that's neither here nor there. So that was sort of just one of my recap moments. But truly, the busing isn't an issue. We've got that. No matter what we do, busing's good.
Correct.
And we're not planning to eliminate specials or
No,
cut
absolutely
sports or anything like that, no matter what we pick.
Correct.
Okay. And those were my major concerns, were the specials, the busing, and making sure that those wouldn't be impacted regardless of what path we move. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Member O'Keefe, please.
I have a question that's not related to any line, just different direction. So at the listening sessions, I heard, in the summary, but also just, in the groups that I participated in, and just from the community members, about a curiosity about how these options are developed, like how were they narrowed down? And just, I know they have, and thank you to Ray and to others who, really helped develop the website that has like the timelines and the, detailed information about, how things were developed, but just for the committee and those listening at home and those in the audience, can you just talk briefly about how these options were narrowed down, who was involved in the decision-making process, and what was just considered and rejected? I heard a lot about the UMaine and Augusta as an option. I know that was considered, but why was it considered and rejected, and other options that were perhaps considered but decided not?
Initially, we had the options of portables. Many of the options in the initial proposal required portables. We got the information, and once we had the information specific to those in terms of cost and again, availability of a November or December timeline, those were deemed not reasonable. In terms of leasing space, I did, between myself and Dr. Harris Smedberg, reached out to all of the local colleges. I know there was some question around UMA. I spoke to the dean of the college myself about a week ago or so, who explained, of course, and everyone has been so helpful, saying, I wish I could help. UMA recently has sold one of their buildings, and he said, we have only 7 classrooms that could be used. So those were similar responses at the other colleges. The space just isn't there to utilize. In terms of leasing space, that was taken off just because of the cost and then the retrofitting. So when space is leased, it would have to have construction to prepare it, depending on which space that was. There were a couple, the military training facility that was brought to me, UTC had explored that, so I did reach out to Director Peterson at UTC and had a great conversation. She gave me the contact information. I wasn't able to, I still haven't heard back, unfortunately, from them. But they did indicate initially that there's lots of, for lack of a better word, red tape for using a military facility. So that was ruled out, and again, would potentially need to have work done to it. And then the other one was the Penquist building, that I've recently been in contact. That was another suggestion that came up later. And I spoke to the director there, who put me in touch with her team. I spoke to them about the space. Director McGuire went over to the building, he walked through, and while there is a lot of space, it would also require retrofitting that area. I'm sure everyone's familiar pretty much with that building. It doesn't lend itself to much outdoor space. Kitchen wise, gymnasium, things of that sort. So we did explore those options in term and have not found anything that would be suitable or available. In terms of the teams, that has varied. It's been our directors, assistant superintendent, various administrators. I've tried to keep basically a rotation of who was involved in whichever option after we initially brainstormed with administrators and district team members, because they are the experts. As I mentioned, I haven't been in Bangor that long, so I'm relying on the team to really come up with that. They know their buildings and they know what's possible and feasible, and they are long-term employees here, many of them, but also bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise about students. And they know the staff, they know the students, and I completely trust their input on this and have relied heavily on them. And again, it's been a rotation because every day they are doing their jobs of leading the schools, and it's been taxing. It's been taxing on them as well as staff, families and students. It's taxing on everyone. So I just can't extend enough thanks to everyone who has helped to contribute to this process.
Question I want to ask, it's more of a comment, but I'd like to expand on a little bit. One of the things that I think is most positive about the school within a school, so Fairmount at Bangor High School, is this idea of keeping the school community together. And that really, it's a real thing. When I taught at the James F. Dowdy School years ago, I was there for 5 years. There's a culture, there's a community, there's your colleagues, there's just a sense of place. And it's not the bricks and mortar, it's the people. So I'm interested in what, it's something you've mentioned several times, and I've heard from folks, is that educators at the Fairmount School are also concerned about this idea of keeping that school community together. Can you
Absolutely.
sort of explore that a little bit?
Sure. I attended a staff meeting with the Fairmount staff, and that was abundantly clear to me directly in that conversation. There were lots of different questions that were brought up, but the main thing that has been shared to me is we just want to stay together. And that was from staff. And I agree with you, there is a unique culture in every single one of the buildings. So to, again, long-term is one thing, but in a short turnaround from June to September is a much shorter timeline to not only physically prepare, but emotionally and mentally. And I think that's the piece that really needs to be considered, given the very strong feedback that we have received. Is yes, change is difficult. This is a rapid change that was unexpected, so people aren't prepared for it, and we need to allow them more time before there are further changes. And that, again, going back to our strategic planning process, that's the aim, that's the goal of that, is to continue that collaborative process, come up with a long-term plan.
Thank you. Member Brad.
No, I know. I know, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I thought it would be helpful. I do agree that the general consensus, right? We all looked at the data, we're part of the listening sessions, is the Fairmount students at, in Bangor High School. I think there are some valid questions, and so about what that would look like. So I think going back to the math, like all of these things that we heard, like fire code makes it so the door can't shut and you have to use a different bathroom, and the gym, could we look at that map again and talk through some of those questions that we've heard?
Sure.
To maybe help answer some of that feedback that people are genuinely concerned about, if that's going to be the decision. I would never want to be like, okay, well, this is what everybody else decided, so let's go with it. Like, those are real concerns that I want to be able to look at. Thank you. Oh, I did. But I won't, I will not lie. I'm sure a lot of people have questions. So, on this, I guess I'll begin with there are bathrooms, right? Those are the bathrooms that are available to the students that they will have access to. They won't have to leave their wing for bathrooms.
Correct.
No one's gonna be coming and going for bath.
Correct.
Okay. What is the thought about lunches?
The lunches, the initial thought on lunches, is to utilize the large space in those open areas where the lockers are. It's
Okay, so
quite
it
a
wouldn't be
significant-
necessarily in there.
They wouldn't necessarily be in the cafeteria, and lunch
Okay.
could be brought to them.
And I just wanna say, Mary Snow has always had a warming cart, and I don't think my kids ever even noticed. So like, I'm not worried about that. What I was worried about was having the already very overworked, staff that is running lunch at the cafeteria, having to manage that additionally. Is it safe to assume that the Fairmount lunch staff, or, food services staff rather, would obviously move with their school and be responsible for that process, like the food at Fairmount?
The food service director has been made aware and is looking at making sure that everyone would get fed regardless of
Oh, yeah.
whichever option.
Right. I obviously have no doubt that people know that. I just, you hear like, oh, my kid has to eat at 9:30 in the morning. Like, that's not fair for a 10-year-old. And I think it's really important to say those things out loud and say like, is that gonna happen? No,
No.
like we have the staff, we have the space. They're not gonna be confined to their classroom. There's gonna be space out here. And this open area here, that's where that's the courtyard. Is that what that is?
If we can go to the high school map, there is a courtyard, but I think when you look at the whole high school map, it's easier to see the
Thank you.
space if you're talking about recess.
Thank you, yeah.
So I can't really. If you scroll, can't see it from back here, sorry. So there is the space, right between, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, the space between peaks, which is the circle, right? To the right, there's an open space there where the cursor is, but if you go to the next open space. No, to the right. Yeah,
There you go.
right
Yeah,
there.
Josh.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
There we go.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so
We
that
are
is
able
a
to
large,
not-
yeah, that's a large open space. There is also a courtyard. The courtyard is the back. Did you want to point to that on the map there?
Yep.
Can you just point out where lower A is too?
Yeah, lower at.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to keep going.
My questions have nothing to do with math.
Oh, I have more.
We gotta keep talking about the math.
I just have one more quick question about
Please, yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a lot more,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna be generous.
Please.
Oh, yeah. So principal's office, social, what about our, resource room, self-contained, gifted and talented?
Yes.
Are those included in the classroom?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Member speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to, run back to what you had said, remember, right, in about the elephant in the room, is this truly temporary or is this long-term? Throughout this whole process, it's been difficult for me to decouple the two, right? So and that's actually, been an aid, I think, in the decision-making as far as which three options for me is, after the feedback and listening sessions with the forefront. As I mentioned, if we have a truly temporary one-year plan, and it sounds like it may be extended beyond one-year plan from what we've learned from this tonight. then it makes sense to be the least disruptive as possible. To keep kids together, when possible. If we're looking for a long-term plan, then option 3 looks to me like a long-term plan. But I'm not sure if it's the best long-term plan. I think we need more time and discussion from families to really truly flesh a long-term plan. And I think that's what's starting to happen, right? We're starting to turn that corner. So I think that alone, the fact that we don't know and don't have 3 estimates, 3 proposals, also reinforces the fact that we need a truly temporary plan. So I recognize there's some folks in the city that are drawn to option 3. And perhaps some that have drawn to option 1. But I'm gonna zero in on what I see as the least disruptive plan, which is option 2. And ask specific questions about that. I think we've heard about transportation, extracurricular class sizes is something I'm interested in hearing about. Phys ed, lunch, we've talked about recess a bit, but also the physical books, right? Right now, there are books there that teachers are using. There are high school teachers that would have to move all of those books, and they would have to go somewhere. And the library at Fairmount, what happens to the library at Fairmount? So I think that's a lot of questions. So to recap, library, books, teachers, under option 2, phys ed and lunch.
We're exploring various options for the library. Again, certainly the students at Fairmount deserve to have books of their age range. So we're looking again at different possibilities, potentially that open space, adding some shelves. In terms of PE, their students are walked to and fro for various things in Fairmount School. So fortunately, there is an opportunity to utilize the third gym 3, I think is what they call it. I may ask Dr. Butler to come up and speak a little bit more about the moving of the high school teachers. He's been working really closely about that. So yeah, so the use of the gym would work. And we are looking at specifically staggering those schedules to, again, mitigate some of the concerns. But I do also feel that it would be appropriate for Dr. Butler to speak about the high school itself. I know there are lots of grave concerns. I myself have been in the high school during the switching of classes at various times. And I know there's always a concern that something could happen. But these are great kids, and I know everyone has acknowledged that. And I did also want to add that there are multiple schools across the state that have not only, you know, this wide of an age range. Some buildings are pre-K to 12. East Millinocket specifically is pre-K to 4 and high school in one building. So this does happen successfully in other places around the state. Dr. Butler, did you want to speak to some about the classroom? Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse. I'll do my best. Yeah, I guess thank you, Dr. Holmes. I wouldn't be a very good principal. I work for the kids. Work for you. Work for kids. I wouldn't be a very good principal. If I can get up here and defend the kids, and I'm being funny, but kids are as good as they've ever been. You know, I'm not here to advocate one way or another. I work for the system. I was asked to look logistically at fitment. And I looked at Laura and but back to my logic point, kids are as good as they've ever been. Think, again, not to advocate, there are opportunities for kids to step up, be leaders, be part of, you know, I get a little boost. I was principal at Fairmount for 5 years, and I went there as a kid, so I probably have as much claim to an emotional attachment K to 7 Fairmount as being principal as anybody. So I feel up and down the line how people are feeling about it. I'll speak to what I was asked to do, which was to look physically at the high school. I had really good communication with Dr. Cork. Mission is, could you transplant that building, the people, all the instructional spaces, not necessarily offices, in a manner that kept it as isolated That's possible because you want them to have their own space, but also to annex and access the space as appropriate. So my job was to look at, communicate with Dr. Quirk, understand the number of spaces that were needed, understand the office spaces that would be needed, understand egress, exit, leave sort of the programming up to Dr. Quirk and others as they consumed a first draft, which you've seen some version of. It places every person who needs an instructional or office space in an instructional or office space that's in lower at Bangor High School that would have its separate egress. My digital media skills are decent. I shared with Mr. Young a little better version that sort of illustrates things a little bit better. What we're talking about is the back part of the building, A wing, upper and lower, we're talking lower A wing. That dumps right out into a neat entrance. Imagining buses coming up, dropping students at a time of day when this campus is really quiet. You know, it's very busy from 7:45 until 8 o'clock. And then you would think that, you know, the hurricane siren had gone off and everybody go on to comfort because it's that quiet. There is the opportunity for a literal bus drive up with very little impediment or impediment from on campus at that time. They could start their day at their normal time with their normal spaces, with greetings up front and, you know, what is currently a 2 or 3 story building, if you count the basement, and an annex into one long 330-foot space. Display is primarily English. Our English instruction happens in lower A, and some portion of world languages. Depending on, you know, I threw out a first draft and conversations with Dr. Quirk. I walked spaces. I didn't go kicking around and nose around Fairmount, and I didn't want any speculation or fire. I know the building. I gave a good, best informed guess about where the programs that I knew, the classrooms that I knew would best fit in lower A. If you take a walk through, some classrooms are bigger than others. The real estate, you can't appreciate it until you go and see the results of removing a bank of lockers. But the footprint that results from removing those banks of lockers will surprise you. It feels not much of a dancer, but it feels like a dance hall. And if you were inclined to dance, you could have a very good dance in there. So the idea is in lower A, the process goes if ultimately, if Fairmount's gonna occupy lower A, we blast out those lockers and create a huge space. It's bigger of a space than you probably envision. I believe there would be room if there was a modified makeshift, not to cheapen the experience, but create a library. There's plenty of room to have a cafeteria. I can literally see the food services carts rolling down to the ramp, open the doors, and the kids are ready to eat. I appreciate the concerns about mixing of students, but the nature of, you know, the building, if you were, 2000, there was a renovation that connected repurposes all elements of the building. The catwalk is one way to take you down to lower A. That's a road very lightly traveled by kids. I don't think it would be a difficult thing to norm them out of being in that area. Just as I think it wouldn't be a difficult thing to excite kids to be part of a positive experience for students in various ways. Right now, so I with my own institution memory, my knowledge of the building, things are placed. There are some refinements possible. Right now, the draft, we're able to maintain some high school instructional space for languages. Right now, the net sum in terms of the question, in terms of impact on teachers, and I'm not minimizing that. That's as I think about how this unfolds, if this is the choice, I've got some very specific actions to put in place that are all theoretical at this point. The net result right now is there would be, right now, this is the first time, and I don't have the longest institution memory of Bangor High School points, Tim Reed. And Tim Reed has said, this is the ironic thing here, and that doesn't mean to denigrate or to downplay one option over the other. But Tim said the irony is this is the first year that Bangor High School teachers, in his knowledge, have had their own classroom. Like, there's always been sharing of some type over the years. We do have some open classrooms. We don't have 19. We'll probably end up with 5 people right now by my count, unless we do something creative, like truly creative, like create spaces that would be suitable for other instruction to take to take up the slack for what we're missing right now in terms of a one-to-one match between those displaced and, where they'll be teaching for a year. I think it's possible, but we've stopped things at the point of knowing that first question's answered. We could put it down there. I do think it could be cordoned off. It would be a dedicated entrance and exit. Things like the most recent thing that we talked through was, okay, let's imagine ourselves in a day at Fairmount School while Bangor High School's happening. They'll have IEP meetings. Whoops, we didn't have a dedicated conference space.
Right.
Could probably create one, but most of those meetings occur at a time when our primary meeting spaces are not used. So most of the IEP meetings are after our first period bell rings. We have a clear protocol for welcoming families, ushering them down to those meetings, and conducting meetings in professional spaces that suit the past. I would argue for that. Other things, that space, I'd invite you to look at it. I walked it off today. It is 100 Paul Butler strides long and 28 strides to the side. Do the math, ChatGPT tells me one stride at 6'6" with 35-inch inseam is about 39 inches. You do the math. It's a decent space. Equivalent to Fairmounts and the space between Fairmount and 14th Street, not close. Good, yes, but nice weather. There are all kinds of things. That's where I say, not to sway opinion on this. I tend to take a we can do this approach to things, maybe to a fault sometimes. But this one feels like, if that's the choice, then I'd be activating the positive thinking about what the possibilities are. As for kids traveling through the building, I'll just give you an example. I won't say the name of the person because I went to a person who'd be critical in making this go in a section of the building. I just laid it on. I said, hey, let's say you had to fit in X number of classes over a week. 14 times 2, that would give it away. 28 classes, could we do it? And they knew it was a serious conversation. They looked at me and they said, okay, if I say. And I'm like, that's okay, just keep it hush hush, because I know the tension of this. There's a lot of tension. I have a lot of tension with this. What I said to the faculty last time we met was when, we had gone through a process, Dr. Robinson contacted us and we said, whoa, that's really big stuff. A little time to sit with it. And then you start thinking about what the possibilities are. I think what we have right now is a good draft. It's not 100% like Fairmont. It's planned. We would be happy to host if that's the decision. We would do a good job to allay the fears if that's the decision and the concern. We could have very little overlap between our kids, but I think we should be hoping for an appropriate amount of really pro-social positive interaction between the kids, if that's the case. I spent most of my time, because and maybe I'm a little bit guilty of this. I spent most of my time thinking about what at the time I saw as the outlandish, wow, 4th graders up to the high school. When I started thinking about it, that to me, that's the most fluid option. I didn't spend a lot of time with 8th graders because Dr. Robinson said it. It's more difficult to imagine when you have 4th graders coming to the high school. They bring with them a great teacher who teaches primarily all their subjects in primarily one place, right? It's more difficult to have 258 graders and bringing the instruction to him. The building's designed to maximize good instructional spaces suited for the content in different areas of the building. It's possible, yes. But
I think Member Sprague has a question.
Well, my comments is to kind of bring it back to our own discussion, which was like, I think one of the purposes of tonight was to kind of do a temperature check on where we're at, and I appreciate the commentary. If other people have questions directly for Principal Butler, I would let them go, but I do want to share some thoughts and see if we can kind of round it out a little bit.
I really appreciate your intimate knowledge of Bangor High School. This is really helpful for
Yeah.
me visualizing what this could look like. Are there specific questions about things that Principal Butler has mentioned? Member Speed, you're shaking.
I
your head.
agree with Shelley.
Member Gary, you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, I
Please.
do. I heard mentioned about other models in the state that have similar school within schools or just K through 12 or different variations. Are you familiar with those models?
I know of, Monaco.
And you know their challenges and their.
I haven't investigated, can imagine some of them, and, I'm not, I wouldn't say much different than what have surfaced here, but would be happy if that's, well,
Not too in-depth, obviously, because we have chosen this option. How we could overcome those challenges or how we're different in those other districts and you know, how we can navigate.
yeah, I
those.
mean, we're a bigger school, bigger space. The kids are much different, 90 miles up the road, or wherever it's happening, but I'd be happy to explore those things if Lieutenant want me to.
Member Speed?
Yeah, in looking at this plan, I think that there's obviously concern with parents' comfort of mixing the age levels with high school students and 10-year-olds. Obviously the strengths of this plan is, keeping the school body together. It's minimum disruption, all the plans out there. There is concerns of weakness of transportation, of course, from the other side of the city to here. And to a direct follow-up question that I have to your comments is specifically to physical education. I heard mentioned that kids would go to the gym from the lower A wing. And so walk me through that. And I also want to give you the opportunity to talk about, everybody's been talking about keeping these kids separate. I wonder if you could speak on your own thoughts of bringing them together, the opportunities that
Two birds with one
Fairmount
stone.
students would have to actually.
Two birds with one stone, with Sprague efficiency. PE kids, you gotta go to PE. We've had a PE leadership class that's run off and on over the years, so the kids are really motivated and invested in the program, not necessarily athletes. PE leadership is part of the escorting of students from lower A up to B wing, up to the gym. Maybe they go outside, maybe PE can be some combination of Mr. Wood, who I was lucky enough to hire years ago, Fairmont, terrific teacher. Mr. Wood accessing outdoor spaces. We have some of the most beautiful, field hockey field is about as good a space as you can get. Accessing that during the school day for events, for PE, things like that. I see opportunities for read chairs, those types of things. I see opportunity, all kinds of opportunities along those lines. I think they're endless.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Member Sprague, you were,
Yeah, again, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I think I'm good.
I have a question.
oh, you have a
I
question
do,
first?
yeah, I for Mr. or for Dr. Butler. Sorry, man, you said that you would minimize overlap of the students in and amongst each other. I just want to address that because that is a number one concern, right? Like how often would this happen outside of moving to PE? Do you anticipate there being other?
Maybe if people spitball different ideas, boy, you got a great library, wouldn't it be nice to have a kids school? That would be one place if we went with it. Dr. Quirk from the teachers felt like that was a good thing, we could facilitate it. There's literally ways to wind your way up from a wing to this back door or any place that are more discreet and private, that there's nooks and crannies, there are things like that, could be minimized, truly, in my opinion, how the building's laid out. Could be very much minimized.
Thank you, and I just, oh my God, I have nothing. Oh, you just said 5 classrooms, you think it's at 5, like,
And I gotta qualify this a little bit more. One of the strengths of Bangor High School, in my opinion, is the suites. So,
Yeah.
It's, people typically might not understand that. Suites are common spaces where desks are shared and all the things that go with close colleagues who work together in the same kind of work.
yeah,
Those are in jeopardy under this plan.
yeah,
English gets displaced. Number one thing, if that's the direction, I would say English needs a suite because they need a place to call home.
yeah,
We talked about things like the library classroom, creating space in upper day. Maybe Jeanette or Mr. Dr. Quirk comes through and says, boy, I can see this being, I know you earmarked it for, this would be better as.
okay,
My concern would be on the other side, whatever decisions made, however, Bangor High School is impacted, I get really concrete with teachers.
yeah,
And we start saying, here's how your department's impacted, which classrooms of the ones that are available, what do you wanna use so we can still maintain some of that, department feel?
Yeah, that's important.
And still give people as much as possible their own instructional space, their own classroom. But I will tell you, my opinion is, looking at it, it won't be possible for everybody to have a dedicated space. We'll go back to what's been a common practice here for many, many years. In other schools, high schools, larger schools in particular, people have to share spaces.
Thank you for that, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you. I know Member Luciano has a specific question, and then we'll get Member Sprague in.
A quick question, if looking at these timelines, we have to push out for 2 years, could we maintain that space for 2 years, or would that?
Next
make it
question.
Much more.
We'll do anything, whatever you tell us to do, we'll figure out how to do it. It's,
Thank you.
I'll just tell you, this is not ideal. That's what you do when you got needs.
Thank you.
Next time, so.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kelly.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Member Sprague, you've been patient.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna pick up on Principal Butler's dance hall thing and say, when we were all younger and could go out, there's a time in the evening when you're so tired, but we gotta rally for a second wind here to finish off this meeting. I'm just gonna comment a little bit about my own thought process in this, and I wanna thank people who've spoken. It's brave to get up and stand in front of your neighbors and your friends and your teachers and your staff. And I really do still feel bad about the listening sessions with the students. I guess I want to apologize on behalf of the school a little bit for that, separate conversation. But my thought process all along this has been a do no harm philosophy. What option, we've all said it, will impact the fewest number of students in the least disruptive way for the shortest amount of time, if we're talking temporary solutions. I think one point of confusion is that sometimes we are talking in the language of temporary, but the conversations do blend to these more permanent, long-term ideas, which is part of the confusion here. I'll talk a little bit about options I don't really support. This is just me as one committee member. I don't support the 8th graders at the high school option. There's a big difference. I mean, they're closer in age, but there's a big developmental difference between 13 and 14-year-olds and 17 and 18-year-olds. I think it's too close and at the same time too different. I don't like that option for a variety of reasons. There's also a lot of logistics that go into getting the 8th graders back to the middle schools for activities, sports, and extracurriculars. I like aspects of the grade 4 at Mary Snow, option 3, grade 5, 6 at Doughty, grade 7, 8 at Cohen. I have an open mind about that because I think it's actually maybe a path to help reduce some disparities between the two sides of the city and just build really good community pride across both sides of the city. There's a lot to like there, but that does feel like a more permanent plan, for sure. I don't think the community is ready for that yet. We're seeing it in the listening sessions. We have not adequately explained why that is a viable plan. I don't think we've earned the trust to implement option 3. The community is just not ready for such a tectonic shift in such a short period of time. Maybe September 2027. Who knows? So where does that leave us now is back on this do no harm philosophy. I've already spoken tonight how I would love to exhaust every possible option to see if there's any way to eke out one more year at Fairmount. I mentioned I'm not handy, so it's far be it from me to judge the contractors. I feel like there's been pretty good explanation tonight. I would encourage us just to keep exhausting that until the very last minute, if there's any way to save Fairmount. But really, on to the other options. I actually like the portables idea early on because I thought it was going to keep everybody together. We toured the portables at Fruit Street a couple years ago. They were very cozy. They were nice, but several $1 million and not available till November, not a viable option. The extra time here has provided opportunities for some further ideas. So again, I'm looking at it with this two-pronged thing, temporary and the least disruption to the smallest number of students. I like the Bangor High School option for 4th and 5th graders. I can understand the concerns. I have some of them myself too. But I really like the idea. And not just a reluctant last ditch thing. But I think it can be a truly special and uplifting experience for these kids for 1 year to bring them together in the A wing of Bangor High School. It keeps the Fairmount community together. Option 3 has fourth grade at Mary Snow and fifth grade at Dowdy. So you got a split right there of fourth and fifth grade staff and students. But this plan keeps everybody together for the year. It also avoids disrupting the other schools. I referenced my own middle school son. I don't want to be biased, but I sense he's going to be a seventh grader at Dowdy. We've heard from incoming eighth graders at Dowdy. Mostly, they don't want to go over to the other side, and I don't think the sixth graders from Cohen want to come over to this side. We can have a community conversation about what that will look like over the long term. But these eighth graders, I want them at the high school, but they deserve to have their last year at Cohen and Dowdy. And I respect people saying their concerns about the safety, they might look at other options. Well, we've also heard from eighth grade parents that they're gonna look for other options if they have to switch sides or if they go to the high school. So I think this actually certainly disproportionately affects Fairmount, but it keeps the other schools intact to allow us some time to figure this out over the long term. Otherwise, you're gonna have teachers from 4 different schools trying to move this summer when they should be on summer vacation. By the way, amplifying a comment from last week, if we hear that teachers are using their summer vacations to move and not getting paid and not getting boxes, I'm gonna flip this table over. It's not tolerable to have that happen.
That's already been discussed. Boxes and compensation is gonna be provided. I've spoken to
Great.
TEA.
Thank you. Excellent. I actually think this high school option could be one of the most special experiences of these kids' lives where I hope and believe they will look back and say, remember that year we were at the high school? Wasn't that so cool? We got that opportunity. I'm sensitive to the concerns about safety and intermixing. I think there's some ways you can mitigate that. Staggered start times is one of them. 8 o'clock versus 9 o'clock, separate exit. I went to Bangor High School here, went to Fairmount too. I believe the A wing can be separated off as this school within the school language we're always using. And I really believe, not to put it on the teachers to figure this out, but the staff and the teachers from Fairmount and from the high school and the parents and the volunteers and the community as a whole can rally behind these kids and make it a really special thing and not a reluctant last option, but a really affirming, exciting, and educationally rewarding experience. And I'm gonna reframe this question about the high school kids. Because what my daughter is most excited about, my 4th grade daughter, next year, 5th grade, is she wants to see if she can have Coach Mosca as her gym teacher. Because she knows him from summer track. And she knows or recognizes 15 or 20 of these high school kids that help with the summer track program. She's done these youth theater shows, some of the high school kids. And you know who is really awesome with 9, 10, and 11-year-olds is 15, 16, and 17-year-olds. It can be a beautiful thing. We can have mentorship opportunities. We have mentorship now between Dowdy and Vine Street. It's really special. Everyone on both sides of that exchange loves it. Why not some with his high school students in the 4th and 5th graders? What if the high school students went out of their way to make these young kids feel welcomed and supported and wanted at high school next year? Can we have our music students in grade 5 get to do a rehearsal for the high school music kids or observe? Can we have the drama club at Fairmount get a chance to be on the stage at Peaks Auditorium? Can we have our Fairmount art students get a chance to see some of the high school art facilities? I think we just moved the Fairmount art teacher to the high school in our last meeting. So not to pin everything on her, but the kids will have familiar faces there. And these after school clubs, can we have the Key Club and the Environmental Club? I saw posters for young beekeepers on the ramp. My daughter would love to be a young beekeeper. Can we have the chess team at the high school? We've never had a chess club at Fairmount, as long as I've known. In this room 2 years ago, we recognized the Mary Snow chess team for winning something, state championship. We've never had it at Fairmount, but there's a chess team at the high school. Could they help get something off the ground? I think so. So I want to talk aspirationally about this. If this is the option, I think we have to role model optimism and stability to our kids. That is one reason I'm upset about the listening sessions, because parents should be able to do that on their own accord. But everybody should also hold ourselves accountable to make sure every one of these concerns, which are justifiable, are completely mitigated to the extent possible. Then we have a plan and a backup plan and a backup plan to that. And on our website, before our next meeting, we have FAQs with the 40 questions that people are gonna have with clear, full, thoughtful answers to every single concern that can come up. And I wanna have these parents that are reluctant about the high school be a part of any committee that we have. So their voices can be a part of this. And then we can talk together about September 2027. And it gives us time on Fairmount to see if it can be, and do we want it to be safe? We got a lot to talk about. And I'm gonna finish up. Thank you for listening this far, if you're still listening. And I wanna say to the teachers at Bangor High School that are disrupted by this. I heard the number 5 classrooms. I heard there may be like 14, 15, 16 teachers in English and world languages that could be impacted by this. I recognize they would have concerns too. And I have gratitude and like real affection for these teachers in my heart, because it's my daughter that they're moving for. And it's 250 other sons and daughters that they would be moving for. And it's what we need right now. It's what the department needs right now, because there's no other clean solution. And that's what it's gonna have to be, I think. It's an imperfect solution, but it's the best solution. And it's gonna be okay. And I appreciate that those teachers are gonna be the ones to make the sacrifice, because I bet when the Fairmount news broke, they weren't expecting the ripple effects that displaced the English department at Bangor High School. So I recognize that, and I wanna say thank you to them. So my point of view from where we are tonight is to take the next week to completely exhaust every possible route on Fairmount. And if we can't, we go to BHS for our 4th and 5th graders at Fairmount. We keep every other school intact, every other staff group intact. And we're gonna do it in a righteous and affirming and uplifting way for these kids next year.
Hate to follow up with it. And there has been a lot of airtime given to, Fairmount at BHS, which I do fully support for all of the reasons that have been mentioned here tonight. I do have some remarks that I want to make about option 3 though, because I think, and member Sprague, you mentioned this, and member Speed, you've mentioned this as a long-term plan. And I absolutely agree. And I know that it's late but I do want to put this out there about option 3 as a long-term goal of this system. Discussions and conversations for years to come. Because I think it's really important, and I look forward to engaging in those types of discussions as a parent and a community member. I like option 3, but only as a starting point for discussions around long-term plans for consolidation of schools and integration of students across the entire city. These are discussions I look forward to being a part of as a parent and a member of the school community in the years to come. I want to talk a bit about the benefits of integrating students earlier across the city of Bangor. The 3 most significant external determinants of a student's academic success, their academic trajectory, are their parents, caregivers' level of educational attainment, the level of economic advantage or disadvantage in their family, and teacher quality. There's some really good news here. No matter what school or on which side of the city, all Bangor students have access to some of the highest quality teachers in the state of Maine, and I truly mean that. No matter where students end up in the fall, they're going to be welcomed and they're going to be cared for by our trusted educators. We don't have much data on differences in educational attainment level of parents and caregivers on one side of the city versus the other, but we do have rock solid data on differences in socioeconomic status among families. According to various state and national level sources, year after year at the William S. Cohen School on the east side of Bangor, the percentage of students who qualify as economically disadvantaged is typically between 30 and 40%, whereas year after year, between 60 and 70% of students at the James F. Dowdy School on the west side of the city qualify as economically disadvantaged and qualify for free or reduced lunch, nearly double the rate at the Cohen School. Just to give you some context, a family of 4 would need to have a total household income of $41,795 or less to qualify for free lunch. and a total household income of between $41,796 and $59,478 qualify for reduced lunch. I believe and evidence supports that integrating students from across the city earlier in their pre-K 12th grade experience will diminish a culture in Bangor of concentrating students in schools based on their economic class, and would contribute to a rising tide lifting all boats phenomenon in which academic standards and expectations, access to expanded school-provided academic and social enrichment opportunities, and social and peer pressure around academic excellence would rise, and this would benefit and lift all students, particularly those students from economically disadvantaged families. My hope is that these types of conversations will continue at the school and school community level in the years ahead. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we are getting late. It's almost 9:30, and I'm hoping.
Stop.
You get it, Shop.
You get equal time.
Yeah, I don't have a soliloquy. But I do think it's fair to say that I fully agree with both points shared. And I do think that this is, from my personal perspective, an incredible opportunity for the fourth and fifth graders at Fairmount. I am happy to support it. I just can't, I just want us to be mindful of the fact that the optics of this are, you guys have to figure it out. You can't come here. And there are other options on the table that provide so many other opportunities to integrate at a larger level. I do not think we are ready for that. I do not think we can do that. I want to be clear on that. I do not think that, you know, we should rush it so that we're all in this together, which was my original thought. When this first came up, I thought, what a great opportunity for us to combine as a city and have that, you know, shared work and really collectively experience this together. I didn't want it to be, oh my gosh, Fairmount, that really is a good luck. It should be something that our entire city feels. I also have heard from Fairmount that this is their community. This is important for them to stay together. I would never want to, just for an optics performative reason, say that that's not going to work for me. I think that there's plenty of data, plenty of evidence, plenty of feedback. So I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to collect that the Fairmount community wants to stay together. I just think that we have to be really mindful of the fact that this does have to reconfigure families on one side of the district from one school that have right now quite a bit of scheduling options available to them that are no longer on the table, and that's a real hardship. And so while I'm 100% on board with positive thinking, I'm 100% on board with recognizing the disparities, I just think we have to say it out loud and really make that a part of the narrative too. Thank you, Bangor High School, you know, English for being so welcoming, and thank you, Dr. Butler, for helping us figure this out. And also thank you, Fairmount, for being flexible and recognizing that's a huge disruption to your school and your school alone, and those families alone. And it would be preposterous for us to be up here and say, that's great, when we're not personally impacted by it. And that is hard for me, because I was like, oh, I'm going to get on board with this. I've got 3 kids in the system. We're all going to be in this together. And it feels a little bit, yeah, performative to be like, this is great because it doesn't impact us. And I want to acknowledge that and say that I feel very positive about it, but it is important to recognize the disruption and the gratitude for whatever comes out of this. That, you know, we still want to be a community in this and supporting everyone with these hard decisions.
All right, I feel like we're at that point where we've exhausted a lot of the questions and comments.
Nice job.
We have a motion. Speak.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out also, I mean, students are the ones who are doing, which is really important to understand, but staff impacts, I think, are important as well. And so I just want to thank the teachers involved at all the schools that would be impacted by these options. But I wanted to also get a little bit more information about what that impact might look like for staff. Or would we need to, you know, we've got a rough breakdown of costs, but how would teachers by contract be impacted per se by option number 2? Would we have to renegotiate contracts? Would seniority come into play? What would that look like, and how would, if this is a beyond 1 year, how do we ensure stability for staff and their assignments, and is it a reassignment that would happen? What would that look like?
There's no need to you don't need to renegotiate the contract at this point. The provisions that would be put into place in terms of boxes and compensation would be a memorandum of understanding. This was done precedent set back with the Mary Snow that was happening when I first arrived a couple of years ago. So teachers at that point, when the Mary Snow work was done, they were compensated that way. If it gets into a longer term piece, that would be something to consider. Beyond that time, what does that look like? But in terms of the staff themselves, they would be allocated an amount of time and then paid for that time.
All right, it's very late. We have administrators that I know need to get up very early tomorrow morning. I want to thank everybody for their excellent comments, their excellent questions from Superintendent Robinson and the administrative team. So much information and so many gaps were filled in for me, and I know for others, and I hope this was beneficial to all of those here and those of you watching from home. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Can I have a discussion? We get discussion. I'm wondering if you could, Chair Surratt and perhaps Superintendent Robinson, lay out next steps between now and 9 days from now in Jesus. So what does that look like? For the public to be aware, what's to be on the lookout for? Because last opportunity to thank the staff, administrators, Superintendent Robinson, Director, for the information that has been provided and communication that has been provided. That's small team, but it's important that we get it right, and it may take time, and we're seeing that work come through. And to echo Member Sprague's point about having those FAQs on page, I think that's the really, but if you could speak to, for the public and the folks in the audience, what does the next 9 days look like?
Sure. We'll be updating the webpage with the items that have been discussed this evening, connecting with Carpenters and Associates to get further information around the facilities. And then at this point, potentially solidifying some plans, but again, we need a decision before we can dig in. So I know that the staff and the administrators are anxiously awaiting a decision so that they can take that and run with it, which I know they'll do. So yeah, updating the website with information and connecting with Carpenters at this point.
Thank you, Superintendent Robinson. All those in favor of adjournment?
7-0.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
6-7.
6-0.
6.